So last week, you dreamed up this ideal retirement. Now the question becomes, how the heck are you going to pay for it? How's Sam going to pay for hers? Well, let's start to organize that this week on the Retirement Answer Man Show. My name is Roger Whitney. I am your host, and this is the show dedicated to helping you not just survive retirement, we want you to rock retirement. And this is week 2 of the Retirement Plan Live series, the live case study. And we have some resources to help you this week, and the only way you're going to get them is through being signed up for 6 Shot Saturday, because they're going to come out this Saturday to help you take the next step in this retirement journey, which is organizing your financial resources, to really getting an understanding of what we got to work with when you're working towards the ideal retirement that you dreamt up over the last week or so. This can be scary for some, getting it all on black and white. But you can't think of it that way. You can't think of it that way. It is what it is. You got to get it organized, look at it, and then start to be intentional about what the next steps are to work towards what you want. And the first step is always, okay, let's take inventory of where we are right now with no judgments, no recriminations, no side chats about this, that, why, and the other thing. Let's just get it in order so we can see where it's at and figure out what going forward looks like. Okay? So give yourself some grace here. If you're feeling a little, oh man, I don't want to look at it, give yourself some grace. We all feel that way in some area. So don't worry about it. This is how we move forward. All right? So what we're going to do is, in a hot topic segment today, we're going to talk about, okay, what resources do we need to organize and some tips for doing that. And then in the practical planning segment, you are going to hear Sam and I walk through the discussion together and identify what resources she has to build this ideal retirement that we heard last week. But we can't do any of that until we have that all-important disclaimer. Bum, 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 bum. Don't take advice from me on the show. I don't know anything about you. I only give advice to clients that I work for as a fiduciary. Looking for an advisor to walk this journey with you? Go to rogerwhitney.com and click on Work with Roger, and we can have a meeting to see if we're a fit. But until then, think of this as helpful hints and education. And before you make any decision, talk to your legal advisor, tax advisor, or financial advisor, because that's just common sense. Now let's go figure out how to organize our financial resources. So step 2 in the agile process is to identify what resources we have to fund this ideal retirement. So last week we were able to suspend reasonableness and have our heads in the cloud, start with a blank slate of what we want to accomplish in life. It's so much fun. This is a step to coming down a little bit to reality to see where we are right now in terms of the resources we have to fund this retirement. And now, if the resources we have right now can't do it, doesn't mean we don't have options. We just have to know where we're at so we can start taking intentional action. So when we talk about resources, what are we talking about? Well, if you're not retired yet, well, let's start with cash flow. Back up a second. Let's start with cash flow. So we talked about spending last week. Now we need to talk about income sources. What might some of those be? So we have, if we're not retired yet, we have our current income, right, that we can use to contribute to our overall net worth, which we'll get to add to the assets that we've already accumulated. So if you're still working, your current income would be counted there. We have, if you're not working, or you have a side hustle, it could be your pre-retirement, meaning part-time work that you plan to do once you're retired, because that will go to providing for this life you created. So we want to make sure we have that. And then you're going to have a pension. If you have a pension benefit from your employer or a past employer, you're going to want to add that in there because that's going to contribute. And then obviously Social Security. So at this point, let's just assume with Social Security that you're taking it at just your full retirement age. The strategies we can get into later, but for now, let's look at just the normal ages. Now, a couple things that people forget sometimes are, well, potential inheritances that we might receive. Now, I know you can't count on those, right? And it feels weird talking about those sometimes. But if it's very clear that you're going to get an inheritance, you're going to want to have a placeholder for what that might be. And obviously, you're going to be really conservative on how much it might be and when it might happen. And only put it in there if you have, it's pretty likely you're going to, your parents are up there and it's just, it's already been communicated. It's reasonable to put it in there, and we can always stress test if it's not there later on. Another one that we sometimes forget is if we plan on downsizing significantly our home, that can add to the resources that we might have. It's not necessarily income, but it's definitely an inflow that we might want to account for. If we're going to move from a large house in an expensive area to a modest house in a modest area, that will unleash some of that equity that you've built up. So you might want to include that as well. So you want to organize when these things might happen. And you're going to, let's say you're going to work part-time. Let's go back to that one. And let's say, I'm going to work part-time. I think I'll make $20,000, $30,000 a year. When you put that number in there, start to think about, how long do you think that income will last? Is that going to be for just a couple of years? Is it going to be for 10 years? And be reasonable about it. When we put those in there, what will happen is at the end of it, when you're evaluating everything, that might be one of the levers that you can pull to achieve some goal that you decide that you value more. As an example, let's say you're planning on doing pre-retirement. Well, if you say, hey, I'm going to go pre-retirement and I'm going to make $40,000, $50,000 a year for this number of years, that might buy you the ability to retire a little bit earlier, maybe stop saving so much, maybe have less investment risk. And then what will happen in the action stage is you can create an action plan of, okay, what intentionally can I do right now to position myself to achieve that? Right? Because it's all about intentionality. That's what the power of process is, creating intentionality. But for now, what I want you to do, and you're going to get a resource in 6 Shot Saturday that organizes it real well, is just brainstorm, okay, what do I have out there that I'm going to be receiving? Now, what are some of the wrinkles with that when you're single? Well, one is, let's say Social Security. If you're divorced, you've been married in the past and you were married for a period of time, you will want to check if you have the ability to file based on your ex-spouse's Social Security benefit. Usually you'll qualify for that if you've been married for at least 10 years. So if you were married 10 years and then you got divorced, you might still be able to receive a higher benefit based off of their Social Security benefit rather than yours. So it's going to be important to check that. So that's just one little wrinkle. It doesn't just mean divorce, but also widowed as well. So you want to make sure that you account for that or check that, because it's easy to overlook because we don't really think about that. Now, once you've organized your income sources and brainstorm that now and in the future, another one you're going to want to do is build a net worth statement. So what is a net worth statement? It's on one piece of paper. You have, usually on the left side, you have all of the assets that you own. And then on the right side, you have all of the debts that you have. And then you total up your assets and you total up your debts and you subtract your debts from your assets. And that's what's called is your net worth. This is a critical document. And I know people that keep it very religiously and have for years. And I know people that have never created one. And if you've listened to this show long enough, I have a love affair with net worth statements because it's in one page. It gives you a really good snapshot, not just of your current financial resources, but over time, as you track your net worth, it's like your personal benchmark that you actually control. Because when you have cash flow, when you earn money, and then you subtract your spending, assuming you have extra money after your lifestyle, that money gets allocated on your net worth. And then your net worth statement is, okay, how are my assets allocated? And are they aligned with what I say my ideal retirement is? So if you've dreamt up your ideal retirement and you know your cash flows, then when we get down to the net worth statement, we go through checklists to determine, is this allocated to support where I say I want to go? Many times it's not, because we don't check it. And we start walking one direction, and then we start to get close to retirement, and we've been all focused on accumulation forever, and then we're starting to get into this period of change, and we don't make decisions to adjust how our resources on our net worth are allocated to support what we care about now. So you're going to get a checklist or a worksheet to build your own net worth statement. Generally, it's going to be you have your taxable assets. So those are things like bank accounts, after-tax investment accounts, savings bonds, your house, general assets that are outside of, IRAs and 401ks and things like that, real estate investment property. Then you're going to have your pre-tax assets. Those are going to be your traditional IRAs, your traditional 401ks, things that you've funded, usually through an employer or through IRA contributions that you haven't paid taxes on yet. And then you're going to have your tax-free assets, which are going to be Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, things that you've already paid taxes on. And by doing your net worth statement, you'll be able to see not just how you're allocated from a resource perspective, but also how you're allocated from a tax diversification perspective, which can be critical when we get to retirement. In fact, we talked about a little bit I think 2 months ago in our healthcare before Medicare, how that can really make a difference if you're trying to secure healthcare and get some subsidies from the ACA. But anyway, get the worksheet and make sure that you have your net worth in front of you. And don't worry about what it looks like, because then once you have that in front of you, you can start to make decisions using checklists of how much cash reserve should I have? How will I manage my spending? Where should I be putting my savings right now, knowing that I'm getting close to retirement? Or where should I be drawing from my assets? By having your net worth statement, you're going to have that dashboard. So that's going to be your assignment, and you're going to get a lot of these resources. But for now, let's go to the practical planning segment, and let's hear Sam and I walk through her organizing her financial resources. Hey, Sam, welcome back.
Hey, hi. It's good to be back.
So, question, how did it feel to hear yourself on a podcast?
Well, you never believe your own voice, right? You can't believe that's what you really sound like. Everybody else, of course, would say, that's you, totally. So,
yeah, exactly. There's something about hearing your own voice that is weird. I don't know what it is.
I do. I know what it is. It's the difference between people when they hear your voice, they just hear you through their ears. But when you hear your own voice, you hear the resonance in your head as well as what you're hearing through your ears. So that's why you perceive it differently.
Yeah, I always have a hard time listening to my podcasts and things like that.
Yeah, but it does give it's a different sound for sure.
Well, last week we were able to be in the clouds and think of ideal, right? To dream. And now we got to figure out how the heck are we going to pay for it?
Right. In fact, I thought of more things after we hung up. And I was like, I should have said this. As long as we were going for it, I should have.
You want to add them in?
Well, I was thinking later that I should have put, because of my love of travel, that maybe I should have increased my budget a little bit or just had one gigantic trip that I designate for a few years down the road that would be a more expensive thing.
Okay, well, give it to me. Throw it at me.
Well, I was thinking an extended European trip, maybe in about 2020 or 2021 would be around a $20,000 trip and plan to stay for a while. Half of it's getting there, once you're there.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's all the expense of getting there for sure.
And then I know you broke out my international and my domestic travel, but my budget and I know you went with 6 and I had said 5. I forget what you had said though about local travel, probably with those two.
I think we increased that one too. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're probably good on that, but that one big blowout trip to Europe would be something fun to add to the list.
Blowout. And I told you about my blowout trip. A few weeks
right. And that's part of it because I was thinking, well, if that's kind of what he's thinking and money-wise, maybe I should go for it. So
Go for it. And actually, I am going to be on that trip between the time we're through with these conversations and the results webinar.
Yeah.
So
that'll be great. Then you can regale us with your tales.
There you go. And Nicole is very nervous about me flying all over the world. Like something will happen to me, but it's
remote. It
is very remote, yes. Mm-hmm. But that's for another time. Right now, we're talking about you and figuring out how to pay for all this stuff. So let's start with income sources.
Okay.
So we know we're going to have Social Security.
Yes.
Right. So
I was going to say, I actually got online not too long ago to look at that because I was kind of curious about that myself and kind of looked at the numbers because you'd never really know what you're going to get. I suppose it could be anything.
Yeah. And even those numbers don't really represent what you're going to get because they assume you work until full retirement age, which hopefully you're not, right?
I would hope not. Yeah.
So
That's the plan.
Let's go with those numbers for now.
Okay.
So what is it? All I need is full retirement age.
Yeah. So at full retirement age, it shows $1,947.
Okay. So $1,947 a month. So we'll assume what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to assume that we take it at full retirement. And then during the results webinar, we'll play around with, different Social Security strategies to see what might make more sense.
Oh, that'd be great.
Okay. So we have Social Security. Now, do you have any kind of pension?
Yes, I do. As a result of my divorce, I got part of my ex-husband's pension. So that's a fixed amount. There's no cost of living adjustment for that, but I get it for lifetime. And that's $2,000.
A month?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And when does that start? Do you know? 65?
No, I already get it.
Oh, you get it now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were you married over 10 years? You were, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you explored what your Social Security benefit relative to the spousal benefit?
Yes, I did look at that, but he retired at like age 52 or something. And I was on hold for like about 4 hours with Social Security. Finally, literally, I did a half a day's worth of work while I was on hold. And when she got on and looked at the numbers, my recollection is that she said I was better off to take my own, assuming that I continued to work. That's definitely something that would be worth looking into again.
Yeah. That was very inconsiderate for him to retire early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So we have Social Security, and then we have a $2,000 pension for your life.
Right.
Anything else? Do you have rental income? Do you own any rental property? Or
I don't have rental property, but I do have some undeveloped land that I currently lease to someone who's farming it.
Okay.
That sort of relates to another asset that I have, though it's a bigger thing as opposed to the money I get as a rental property. That's a minimal amount of money to help cover the taxes on that property.
Okay, so it basically just pays for itself.
Kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that when we build the net worth here in a moment. Any other income sources you can think of?
Other than my job.
Okay.
No.
Well, when you retire, let's get to that. When you retire, do you plan? You got extensive travel plans.
Mm-hmm.
So you may not, but do you have any plans to have like a pre-retirement earning income in some way? Or is that not really what you want to do?
No, and I thought about that to try to start some sort of contractor or consulting business as sort of a stopgap for some income, if for no other reason than just to offset the cost of the medical insurance. But I haven't made that a reality, but I have thought about that quite a lot.
Okay. And I know there are, and I'll have to look them up because I don't have it right here in front of me. There are websites. You could be an international house sitter.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be great?
I think I knew someone that did that. And you get there and you got free housing. You stay for a month or two. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
So you'd be open to something. You just haven't really explored it yet. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This income, all these income sources are going to be the first line of defense to fund the lifestyle that you came up with.
Mm-hmm.
So now let's build a net worth statement.
Okay.
Now, have you ever built a net worth statement? Do you typically track one?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are you familiar with what one is?
Yes.
Okay. And a little earlier, we talked about how to do it, and everybody's going to get a resource to do that. So let's just build one. Given that this is a case study, and this is you're being generous enough to help give us resources, we're just going to talk big numbers here, okay? We're not going to get down into the detail. So if we think of just cash accounts or cash reserves, just give me a round number in after-tax assets and like in checking accounts, savings accounts, things like that.
So you're not talking necessarily about my investment accounts, except for the money that would be in cash within those?
We're just talking about like what you have in a savings account or a checking account.
So let me look here. I think big number wise, probably just local savings, somewhere around 20,000.
Okay. And then, so let's talk about taxable or after-tax investments. So those are not IRAs or 401ks or Roths or anything.
Okay. So not IRAs and not Roths. Okay. And that's always been confusing to me, the business of taxable and not taxable. Can you just explain that real quickly?
Sure. So like taxable is usually the term. It could be after-tax assets. So money that you've gotten just through your income or through the divorce that you invested would be, you've already paid taxes on the money that you invested. Whereas like your 401k typically would be pre-tax, right? Because you never paid taxes on those monies.
Okay.
And then Roth would be, tax-free because they're growing in a tax-free type of account.
So on Roths, do you put money into that account that you already paid tax on?
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
so
And
that's kind of a taxable account in that sense.
except that all the growth is never taxed. It's, that's the attraction of a Roth is it grows tax free. So it's never going to have to.
Okay, sure. I see what you're saying. So honestly, I don't know a good breakdown on that. I can kind of give you an overview number if I had to, because I have an IRA or a 401k, I should say, actually through my employer. And that's kind of a separate account that is managed. So in that one, it's around 180,000.
So you have a 401k of 180,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's just go. Everybody else can't, but you and I are looking at each other, and I can see you have statements and stuff in front of you. So let's just go randomly on accounts. So we have a 401k of 180,000.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then I have investment accounts that are a combination of like mutual funds and annuities and Roths and all of that. You want me to break that down?
Yeah. Why don't you give me the Roth number? Let's start with the
Roth number is about 55,000.
55,000. Okay. And then what about you? Previously, you had said you had an annuity that was in an IRA and one that's not in an IRA. Is that correct?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So explain that to me. Just give me each one.
Okay. So the annuity that's in an IRA is about 280,000. Okay. And then the annuity that's not is much smaller. It's like 53.
Okay. And then any other investment assets?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I have mutual funds that are valued at about 115,000.
115,000?
Mm-hmm. And then I have another IRA that was money that I got from the divorce.
Okay.
And that's much bigger. That's around 500,000.
Okay.
Actually more like 530.
Well, depending on the day, right? Depending on the day. I was
going to say, I don't follow the stock market because it's nerve-wracking.
Okay. Yeah. So any others? Anything?
I think I told you all of them.
Okay.
The IRA, the annuities, the Roth. Yeah.
So when you look at the mutual fund statements, they're just in your name, right?
Correct.
Okay. So that would be after-tax assets or taxable investment.
Okay. Okay.
Just as an example. Okay. So we will list this out. So we'll build a net worth statement for you.
Okay, great.
Okay. And we'll share a copy with everybody since they're listening to it so they can see where they're at and then they can build their own as well. Now, you said you had some raw land. So
yes, I do.
Tell me about that.
That's land that I inherited from family. And it used to be part of a larger farm. And then it was parceled out to various people in the family.
Right.
And I've had that for quite a long time. It's about 10 acres. And because it's zoned and has always to this day been farmland, it doesn't have infrastructure for development, although a development plan has been approved for it. But, raw land is only worth what somebody will pay for it if the market supports that. So I've been sitting on it, hoping the market would improve, honestly.
If you had to put just a value on it with things like that, you usually put a place marker value on it because it's such a long-term thing.
Well, I actually had contacted a realtor and had her run some comparables. There wasn't anything that was directly comparable, but even ballpark kinds of things. She came up with about 45,000 an acre.
Okay.
So that'd be about 450,000.
That seems very valuable.
It is. I'm hesitant to get rid of it at this point, though, because I know what it was worth 10 years ago. The real estate market's all over the place. So.
Yeah. And raw land is one of the hardest things. Mm-hmm. Takes a long time to sell and it's binary because it doesn't, yours produces basically enough to pay for itself. Mm-hmm. Right. I'm assuming you own it. If you inherited it, there's no debt on it.
Right.
You just have the taxes and whatever. Okay. And 10 acres isn't a lot for farming either, really.
No, because it was part of a much bigger parcel, but yeah. And, if I was a builder or I understood contracting and development, whatever, I think there'd be some money to be made there. And that's something I've thought about, but that's risky for me because, there's a lot of upfront money. There's a lot of risk and things I wouldn't know about. I'd have to have some trustworthy partners to make that a reality.
Yeah. It's do things that right? And especially when there's a lot of capital involved.
Sure.
Okay. So you have the land. And you have your house, right?
Yes.
So roughly what is the value of your home?
The value of my home right now is probably around 220,000.
Okay. Any other assets?
Let me think. Well, yeah. This is one that I don't want to have to cash in if I don't have to, but I'm starting to chip away at it. Both of my adult daughters owe me money that came out of college kinds of things and other loans that I made to them with the knowledge that they would pay me back. So I'm charging them 0 interest on that. And they both have other educational loans that I said, you need to pay those off first. But ultimately, the intention is that they will pay me.
Okay. So they're not making payments on it currently.
No, they are not. But combined, the two of them owe me about $26,000.
Okay. And do you have a formal note on that, or that's just a family thing?
Nah, it's just a family thing.
Okay. Is your idea that you're going to forgive that, or is it really they're paying you back?
Well, the one who
Wait, we better not say that,
definitely
because if they
wants me-
listen to this, they might. We don't want to give them any
Well,
ideas. That is not girls. You better start making payments.
Yeah, right. Well, the one that owes the least amount of money told me, in fact, this week that she's ready to start making payments because she just got a new job. But she goes, I'm not going to pay you if my sister is not going to be paying you back because she owes you a lot more. And I said, no, the intention is everybody's paying mom back.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Those are separate issues. The other sister, those are totally separate issues.
Yeah.
We'll have a private intervention on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so that technically is an asset. It's one of those sort of phantom ones that, unless there's real paper to it, it's like lending money to a friend. You just assume it's a gift, and if you get paid back, unless it's a formal thing. But,
although I think if I said, I'm leaving my job and I need to look at sources of income and I need to be able to predict a budget, could you pay me X dollars a month? I'm sure I could get both of them to start doing that.
Okay. So you have good girls.
Yeah.
Good
girls. Both gainfully employed and, trustworthy in that way. I'm sure they do want to pay me back. It's just the timing is not there yet. So
see, you have I have a 20 and 22-year-old, and I'm like, and they know this: financially independent and morally sound. Those are the two things. I'm like, you guys are there. Whatever else you're doing, like one of my daughters has tattoos all over and everything else. I'm like, that's all right, as long as you have a passion and you're moving forward.
Right.
So, what about the debt side of the equation?
Yep. So I still owe on my house, and I had refinanced it not that long ago. I figured out this morning I'll be 85 when I pay it off. So it comes to term in May of 2043, but I still owe about $163,000.
163.
Mm-hmm. And then I have the car that we discussed the other day, and I owe about $23,000 on that.
Okay, 23 on the car. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay.
I don't have any credit card debt or, anything else like that.
Now, what about, do you have any future inheritance?
Well, possibly. Both my parents are older, but I'm hoping that, and they're financially sound, but I'm hoping that they will live long enough to burn through most of that.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't want to count on anything from that.
Okay. So there aren't any specific plans or communications of any sort. Okay. All right. Oh, one thing I forgot to ask you. On your assets. So what are you contributing? What are you contributing to your 401k or to anything else?
I contribute 10% of my pay to my 401k at my employer. And that's it. I don't have any other.
Okay. And do they match?
3%.
They match 3%. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I usually get an end of year bonus, but that's not guaranteed, nor is profit sharing. But generally I do. But of course, I wouldn't get any of that if I weren't working.
That's right. That's right. You wouldn't. What's a typical bonus?
The bonus and the profit sharing together, but the profit sharing goes right into the 401k.
Okay. Yeah.
But typical bonus is several $1,000s. It depends on the year,
Like 3,000?
Yeah, 3 to 5. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And roughly what's your income level?
My income level, not counting the pension, is about, let me look what it was. Of course, we all just did our taxes, right? So you'd think we'd have that fresh on our minds. Let me see. I want to say around 58,000.
58? Okay.
I don't see the number here at the moment, but that seems right to me. And it depends. And I have to tell you, I work hourly. So some years I get more and some years I get less, just depending on what my work has been for that year. So Yeah, but I think that number is pretty safe, somewhere around 58,000.
Now, from a insurance standpoint, do you currently have life insurance or long-term care insurance?
I don't have life insurance because, I'm not supporting anybody except myself, technically. And yes, I do have long-term care insurance. I purchased that about 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, I couldn't give you all the details of the coverage, but at the time, it seemed like it was going to do it. It allows for in-home care. Family member can care for you even in your home. And then it covers, a certain amount of facility stay as well.
Do you recall if it had an inflation adjustment rider of any sort?
I don't recall. And I want to say it did, but I don't recall that, honestly.
Okay. Well, when we work offline outside of the public eye, if you want, we can just review it real quick just to explain it to you because it's easy. Those types of things always need to be explained over and over.
Oh, I know. And it's one of those things that you look at it and then you're like, okay, I'm done looking at this. I'll look at this again in 10 years, and here I am. So I should be looking at it again. You're right.
Yeah. Okay. So we have outlined and organized the resources that we've at least identified for now that is going to help fund all this stuff.
Okay.
These cool things that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting. And anybody that's listening, I encourage you to send me comments and questions based on what you're hearing from Sam, because I'd be interested in your perspective. We've done this in the past of, do you think this is going to work? What did we forget about? Because, we can sort of crowdsource, making sure we don't miss anything, right?
Yeah.
So what we're going to do next week is talk about, we keep going downhill. We started off in the clouds.
Yeah.
Then we got to somewhat reality. Now we're going to talk about, next week, we're going to talk about investment experience in philosophy, but also, potential risks and, bombs that could blow off to derail things.
Right.
So we just keep going downhill. Hopefully that'll be the trough and then we'll start going back up.
Good. Yeah. We're moving into the dark tunnel for a little while.
Just for a little while. Every good story has a story arc and we're going down into this.
That's true.
So we will talk next week.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Hey, welcome to the Happy Lab, where we noodle on how to live a happier life. Nicole, question for you. Do you keep a net worth statement? Okay. So they do not. So we're going to get together, you, your hubby and I.
Will I be scolded for this? Is this a professional snafu here?
Well, I don't know how that works in the Happy Lab. That's probably what you're wondering.
It is.
Right? But, building a net worth statement can be intimidating because you have to look at the result of all your financial decisions and see it in black and white. And that can really be intimidating. That's one reason why we don't do it. But I'm going to assure you that if you do the smart sprint we're about to go to and you build a net worth statement and start tracking it, that's the first step to dealing with reality, leaning forward and starting to become more intentional. And I find people are a lot happier when they're doing that. Seriously. You will be a happier woman, Nicole, when you have a net worth statement.
I'll just believe you on this one.
All right. Let's go to the smart sprint.
On your marks, get set.
Okay, we're in the smart sprint. Well, you know what it is. In the next 7 days, Nicole and you get the resource in 6 Shot Saturday. I know you get that, Nicole. And either build your own Excel spreadsheet or use the resource that we give you to build your net worth statement so you can have a clear picture of where you sit now. It's going to make you happier, Nicole. Trust me. So go do that in the next 7 days, all right?
All right.
Hey, so you got a chance to hear Sam's financial resources, and you'll get a summary of that in 6 Shot Saturday. And I would love your feedback on her journey of flying solo into retirement. What do you think about her ideal retirement and her financial resources? Do you think she has enough? Are there any issues or opportunities you see that she could take advantage of? Go to rogerwhitney.com and ask a question and tell us, and we'll share some of your insights on the show. So next week, we go even more serious and we get down into the risks and worries about retiring solo. So make sure you join us.
We appreciate you joining us today for this episode of Retirement Answer Man. Be sure to visit rogerwhitney.com/answers to access the Retirement Answer Library with over 30 checklists to help you make the most of the only life you have. Remember, you have more power than you realize to create an amazing life starting today with Retirement Answer Man. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Have a wonderful day.